I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment. We'll see if we can sneak him in later, but we do have Charles Bishop as well as A.D. Drew. With that being said, I want to say welcome to episode 657 on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, and to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. In short, we just call it HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-hosts, Charles Bishop and A.D. Drew. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KSUH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, Drew, how are you doing today?
I've been doing fine. If FAMU would have got a hit or a walk right before we came on the air, but great game we got going on SWAC Digital with the softball game between FAMU and Grambling, and that's the third out. We're in the top of the 8th inning. FAMU will be batting soon. And Dr. Cavil, when we come back next week, we will be on our Willie Mays show, number 660.
I like it. Good
next
one.
Monday. I mean, next Tuesday. It'll be the Willie Mays show, 660.
Good comparison there. Allegory. I like that. Nothing better than 660. Thank you, Aaron. With that being said, certainly want to give a shout out to Brian in terms of his frustration with the SWAC. I tease him because I care. He actually made some good points, but I wanted to push back with him this morning as they got up in a tizzy in terms of the SWAC release of softball awards. He didn't feel comfortable with it, so I just was excited to see how frustrated he was. So I just thought I'd give him a love. So make sure y'all turn in to Orange and Green with Kelvin. I'm sure they're going to have some comments tomorrow about their thoughts. It would help if FAMU would find a way to win this game together, 1 versus 4. The fact that it's going to 8 may not be as good news, but if they win it, they can still put the chance out. But certainly don't want to go to the loser bracket in game 1 when you're talking about how tough the East is versus the West. But I tease him because I wanted to care a little bit. We have fun in our little media sessions at times. Sometimes we get bored of the monopoly and we find a way to lather it up, and they did so this morning. Good stuff, good stuff. With that, Charles, how are you doing this morning?
Doing well, Doc, doing well. Finals week, so everybody getting that in right now. But tell you what, had a very good weekend calling Texas Southern and Southern. Kudos to Coach Chris Crenshaw. That was a heck of a performance this weekend from the Southern Jaguars.
Oh, yeah, big statement. Just when we're ready to shut them down, Carlos is going to have to take some words back a little bit.
Carlos had the shovel in the dirt. He was just ready to scoop, man.
He sure did have a shovel in the dirt. And Charles, I'm going to call Charles Mr. Crime Stopper over there. We'll leave that to later.
Hey,
with that being said, talking about the crime or court systems, SWAC statement had a statement today in regards to Urban Edge lawsuit motion for summary adjudication victory for the SWAC. As was said, Southwestern Athletic Conference, better known as SWAC, and its commissioner, Dr. Charles McCullen, successfully obtained the dismissal of all claims asserted against them by Urban Edge Network, i.e. known as Urban Edge or UEN, in a $150 million lawsuit that has been pending since 2023 concerning the media rights to the SWAC's athletic games. In its lawsuit, Urban Edge contended that it had the right to broadcast SWAC athletic games on its nationwide streaming platform, I should say. The notion was dispelled by an April 21st, 2025 order issued by an arbitrator presiding over the lawsuit, who held that, among other things, that UEN, quote, I should say, UEN has no contractual relationship with the SWAC and as such no rights to market, sell, or promote advertising, broadcasting, or similar rights for the SWAC games or events of its member institution, end quote. The order also permanently enjoined, end quote, Urban Edge and its founders, Hartley Pelt and Todd Brown, quote, from any further fraudulent attempts to sell SWAC advertising media rights to third parties, otherwise use SWAC media or induce SWAC membership institutions to breach their agreements with SWAC, end quote. This is a significant victory for the SWAC, who still has claims against Urban Edge that will proceed to trial. Urban Edge's dismissed claims include the following claims. Urban Edge asserted against both the SWAC and the SWAC commissioner, McCullen, tortious interference with contracts, tortious interference with prospective contractual and business relations, defamation, and unfair business practices. Urban Edge initiated the lawsuit against the SWAC Commissioner McCullen, Weber Marketing and Consulting, LLC. Derek Weber in the federal court case, captioned Urban Edge Network, Inc. versus Weber Marketing Consulting, LLC, civil action number 322 CV 02021M in the Northern District of Texas, Dallas Division. However, on June 26, 2023, instead of continuing in federal court, this lawsuit was compelled to resolution in the JAMS arbitration. The SWAC is represented by Chisara E.Z. Bancour of Barnes and Thornburg, LLP, who is the co-chair of the firm's commercial litigation practice group. Commissioner McCullen is represented by LaRon E. Rogers of Fox Rothschilds, LLP, who is seasoned sports and entertainment lawyer. Fascinating when you talk about this. I remember when it certainly had a lot of limelight out there, particularly when you took about the numbers of 150 million. So it's fascinating to see after 2 years, just to let you know sometimes how long legal battles go and the directions they twist and turn. But at the end of the day, as was said in the headline, SWAC statement regarding Urban Edge lawsuit in motion for summary adjudication victory from the SWAC.org. Any thoughts from either of you? Starting with you, Charles.
I think the one thing within the press release that kind of made my eyebrow go up was not only did the SWAC say it was a significant victory, but they still have claims against Urban Edge that they will proceed to trial on that. And anytime you're more than willing to proceed to trial, that's, that made the eyebrow go up on that. So,
good point. Good point. Drew, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think it's going back 2 years ago. I just thought it was a shame that at a point in time when we were really started to peak in our coverage of HBCU sports, that something like this was going to be could have been a proverbial black eye on our HBCU institutions. And obviously weren't in the deposition, so I don't know what was said by who, for who, about who, and everything else. But I'm just, one way or the other, I'm glad this is over. It's just a cautionary tale for all of us in media as we proceed to make sure that we have our ducks in a row especially before you go out trying to. I think the key thing was trying to sell advertising and other things to potential sponsors. So got to make sure you have your ducks in a row before you do that. I'll just leave it right there. But I'm glad it's over. I am really glad it's over.
Good points you made in terms of on both parts, in terms of media production and how you go about your business there, particularly in this modern age of content creation. A lot of information there, but really understanding the finer points of the business is extremely important. So points well made by both of you in terms of what that looks like. Further litigation and making sure you really understand your business practices as you move forward. So it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. Let me let y'all both get some news in. We'll take a break. We'll come back and see if we have some other news, maybe give some updates depending on how things look. So I'm going to go with you, Drew. Any news that you wanted to get on the table?
Give me a second. Let me get to my page. Here we go. We don't have enough time before we get into the break to get into the awards. So I'm going to go with something to the heart, at least for me. Y'all may not care about it, but shout out goes to Alabama A&M for being named the 2024-2025 SWAC Sports Information Staff of the Year.
Yeah, very much so.
So Alabama A&M Sports Information Staff was named the 2024-25 Sports Information Staff of the Year. The award was voted on by the league's Sports Information Director. Alabama A&M continues to grow this year as the department added full streaming for basketball as well as softball and baseball games. In addition, Alabama A&M Athletics expanded its numbers throughout the year on social media platforms, including Instagram and X. Obviously, we know they've held multiple press conferences with the multiple coaching changes that they have had and was able to pull those off fairly well. And the current staff, shout out to Brian Howard, Assistant Athletic Director for Athletic Communications, Leah McDaniel, Assistant Director for Athletic Communications, Jordan Norsworthy, Director of Creative Content, and Ty Floyd, Athletics Digital Media.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I like that, Drew. I see why you were going in that direction, but it does matter to us. We need the information to be able to get our information out.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate those SIDs that do the job, and particularly those that go above and beyond, including Brian, in terms of what he was able to get done. Shout out to Alabama A&M and the Bulldogs up there in Huntsville, Alabama, as they like to say, actually. Normal. With that being said, Charles, what direction are you going?
Let me give some kudos, and this goes out to Coach Omar Johnson. It's a huge landmark achievement as he was able to pick up his 600th career victory on Sunday. Johnson secured the milestone win and the Tigers' 5-0 win over Mississippi Valley. Omar Johnson, who's been at the helm at Jackson State since 2007, reached a milestone after nearly 2 decades of consistent excellence. He joins former Jackson State head coach, my friend, Coach Bob Brady, as only the second coaching program history to surpass 600 wins, with Brady holding an incredible 824 wins. So when you take a look at Omar Johnson, 14 campaigns with 30 or more wins in 16 seasons under his guidance, the Tigers have claimed 7 SWAC Eastern Division titles and 2 SWAC championships, including back-to-back tournament titles back in 2013 and 2014. So kudos go out to Coach Omar Johnson.
Good stuff. Kudos to Omar Johnson. Anytime you can do 600 in a positive direction or anything is really significant. I mean, we at 657 episodes, and so I recognize 600. Appreciatively. Let's take our first break.
And he's still 8 years away from the all-time winner at Jackson State.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah.
Great point. Mm-hmm. Let's turn the page, take our first break. We'll come back on the other side. Let's get into some champions. We had some champions named over this weekend. Let's talk a little bit about them, but let's take our first break first, come back on the other side and do just that.
Planning an event? From weddings to corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC brings over 15 years of experience to make your vision a reality. Based in Metro Atlanta and serving statewide, even internationally, we provide versatile event planning and authentic catering cuisines tailored to your needs. Whether it's pre-game meals for student athletes, fundraisers, weddings, corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC is your one-stop solution for exceptional service and unforgettable food. Our diverse culinary heritage means we cater to all cultural tastes, dietary needs, and food restrictions, making every meal uniquely yours. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Visit us on all social media at CMJ Events LLC or email us at cmjeventsllc@gmail.com. Also give us a call at 404-664-3882 so that we can start planning now.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Give you a couple of updates here. We did have a win of Alabama State over Texas Southern. Close one there, 5-4. In terms of those matchups, that was Alabama State over Texas Southern 5-4. That was a 3-2 matchup. In terms of Texas Southern going into the loser bracket, Alabama State, and stays in the winning bracket. And then you have a matchup with Jackson State over Southern 5-3. In terms of that matchup, anytime the Tigers and Jaguars get together, it's interesting. So this time, Charles will have a smile and Carlos will have a frown.
Hey, you know what, Doc? Now it's Tigers and Rattlers. I mean, I don't know what's going on in the chat, but it's Tigers and Rattlers about something.
It doesn't surprise me. I wonder if this is the Tigers of Grambling and the Rattlers of FAMU, obviously, in that matchup, as this one is going into ninth inning, 2-2. That's extra inning.
Bottom nine.
Bottom nine in terms of that action, is they were just able to get out of that inning. Interesting, as that's the second inning and extra innings in terms of what goes on there. So we'll keep your eyes on there. Stick with us. We'll give you that. But let me go to you, Charles, in terms of update. Give the championship for the HBCUAC. In terms of who came out of that, we got a little repeat action on that side.
Sure. Let's take a look at the HBCUAC baseball postseason champions as the Talladega College baseball team. They took the lead in the third inning, Doc, and they didn't look back as it won the HBCUAC 2025 Hope Credit Union Baseball Championship with an 8-3 win over the number 6 seed Southern University at New Orleans, also known as SUNO, for its second straight tournament title. At St. Vincent Field at Dickey Stevens Park. The Tornadoes, they've won an incredible 42 games, win their 8th title as a member of the conference. Their previous 6 were from 2012 to 2017. And with one out in the third, Victor Rivera singled in Miguel Oropeza, who was hit by a pitch. But Oropeza, that name jumps out at me as he's hitting over 500 going into that tournament. So kudos to Talladega for winning another conference championship.
Cover off the ball, as they say. Doing a good job. Talladega did not disappoint. Kudos for them. Like you said, over 40 wins. That's amazing, regardless of level that you're playing at. Back-to-back championships. I was a little disappointed when I didn't get my Talladega Wiley matchup.
I needed to see that matchup. Yeah.
I needed to see that. And Wiley got upset by Suno, to Suno's credit, as they got hot and went on a run. Go ahead, Drew.
I was gonna say then that a game that would never end, the Wiley Steelman game in the in the quarterfinal, actually, because that game went 13 innings, and I swear there was over 25 runners left on base between the two teams.
Wow!
Oh, yeah, they could not get them ducks off pond.
Yes, they could not do it
that way, and it just kept turning and clicking. Good point. Shout out to Talladega. Shout out to the HBCUAC. A great game in terms of that matchup. Great tournament. Saw all the updates and actions there. Good stuff. With that being said, Drew, I know you were in SIAC country. You were down there in Macon for the SIAC tournament, particularly got a chance to do part of the show, which I love. Was fascinating that you gave us a little bit of insight and got to see the game. We were watching and listening as you were doing the show with Brian with Sports Rap. But talk a little bit about the champion that came out of the SIAC tournament.
That would be the Albany State Golden Rams, Dr. Cavil. And you talk about doing the show live, you know, when you on those pavilions on first or third base line, you have to watch out for foul balls. And one came flying at me live on the show. So, and then
Duck!
He did. He was real about it. He was like, oh, what?
and what Brian said, good job not cussing while you was on there, because it came awfully close. But anyway, man, you talk about those hot bats in the HBCUAC. Did you see what Albany State did in this tournament, Dr. Cavil?
Oh, yes.
With those hot bats, I mean, they defeated Savannah State not once but twice. Now, mind you, Savannah State not only won the season series, but swept the season series when these two teams played. But when it mattered most, Albany and broke out the hit stick, as they say. They beat them 23-8 in the winners bracket championship game. Savannah State fought out of the bracket championship game, only to lose 14-12 in the championship game. Quickly, Albany State came out swinging, scoring runs in each of the first 4 innings. Rams jumped to a 5-0 lead by the third inning, ignited by standout performance from Luke Addison, who was 3 for 5 with a home run, a double, and 3 runs and 3 RBIs. Bat Delay, who also logged in 3 hits and 3 RBIs, and Tyler Turner, who drove in 3 runs on 2 extra base hits. Albany State exploded for 7 runs in the 6th inning, highlighted by Addison's home run. And despite a late surge from Savannah State, because Savannah State and Suno, and I equate it to ants, Dr. Cavil. You ever spilt something like in your garage or right outside your house, and something sticky, and then the ants just start coming around and won't go away?
Right.
Suno in the HBCUAC, that was Savannah State in the SIAC.
Wow.
They would not go away and kept fighting. But after all the drama in the first 7 innings, the 8th and the 9th innings were really kind of anticlimactic. I swear the 8th and the 9th inning may have taken 15 minutes combined to get it in. Albany State holds up the trophy. And I did talk to Coach Scott Hemming before the game, and I was joking with him. I was like, all it takes for you not to host the tournament for you to win, because Albany State has hosted the tournament for pretty much the last 4 or 5 years. So I guess not having to deal with all the other stuff as being the host institution, all you have to do is just go out and play ball, may have been one of the contributing factors to Albany State's rise during the SIAC tournament.
Great stuff. Great stuff. I did want to give a shout out to Spring Hill. They did win the regular season going away, but it's just something about their tournament. They were able to get out of their first game against Lane. It was a close one, but you figure they didn't pitch the ace. The 6-4, and they fought out of that. But it seemed like maybe a little omen. They got against the hot Albany State that we said during the season were improving, because in the middle of the season we were concerned about the Golden Rams because they weren't playing the baseball that we expected as we've seen them play over the years.
And thank Morehouse for that.
Yep, they certainly.
After we beat them in the first game of our series against them, they actually turned it on. And if you go back and look at their schedule, that's when they got hot after they lost to us in the first game of the series.
Good stuff.
The 1st of April.
Good point. And Albany State went on and beat Spring Hill. And then Spring Hill went in the loser bracket and couldn't fight their way out of that. As they got it done against Benedict, and then they succumbed, as you were alluding to, as things continue to get past that. As they lost to Edward Waters, I think it was in the loser bracket before Savannah State ended up defeating Edward Waters. But those teams were up the top, so they played through it. And you've seen the top teams at least get pretty deep in that tournament. But sometimes you need a little bit of that magic. Shout out to Albany State getting it done there. Let me give you this. We'll take our next break. We'll get in a little bit more of SWAC baseball as things are heating up, getting interesting. Folks are fighting for these seedings, and it'll be fascinating to see your thoughts as I give you the top ledger for the SWAC baseball. With that, softball tournament began the day we gave you those updates about those early matchups. Again, that was Jackson State over Southern. That's 2 versus a 3. Number 5 seed Jackson State out of the East defeated number 3 out of the West 5-3. So that's a victory for the West. Want to shout them out. The East getting it done there. And then you had a 3 versus 2. Texas Southern, the 2 seed versus the 1 seed Hornet, the 3 seed Hornets. So Hornets defeated Texas Southern, sending Texas Southern to the loser bracket 5-4. So interesting in terms of that. And FAMU gets out of it, gets it done, winning 3-2 in the bottom of the 9th, getting it done. So they move and continue in the winner bracket. So that's 3 teams from the East getting it done. Close games, but at the end of the day, East gets it done in terms of teams going in the loser bracket from the West. Final matchup will be 1 versus 4, and that will feature Prairie View coming out of the West. It'll be interesting to see what they can get done as they match up in terms of fighting the number 4 seed team out of the East, which is Bethune-Cookman. And so we'll see what this looks like as the tournament continues to go down the stretch. Let's take our second break, come back on the other side, get into some baseball talk, more of it from the SWAC perspective.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Cover's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Cover's Voice, Cover's Voice, CoversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit HBCUPrideJoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We're gonna go to the SWAC standings as we get down to the last 2 weeks before we get our final standings and seedings. If you would, I'm going to break this up into 3 pods. The first bottom pod, we'll talk about those teams there, starting with Alcorn State. The Braves just faced Prairie View. Prairie View got the switch. Really, last week they were pretty much out, but for sure now they sit at 1-23 in conference play, 6-37 overall. They've lost the last 10 games. And had a rough go of it as they got swept here in Prairie View, Texas. Number 2, you have Alabama A&M. They are having a rough go of it. They sit at 2-22, 10-35 overall. They've lost the last 6 games, so they're also outside of the tournament. Mississippi Valley State plays Prairie View. I would say that they're probably out of it, but they get a chance maybe to at least push things forward a little bit. But it's struggling for them. They're 6-18. They lost the last 6 games. They sit 11-23 overall. And then you go to Prairie View, struggling, but they got some big victories, 10-11, 14-32. They've won the 3 straight, including, as I said, those 3 games against Alcorn State Braves. They have a rough go of it. We talked about last week. That it may come down to them, Southern and Jackson State. But Southern decided to kick some of that dirt that people wanting to put on them, and they swept Texas Southern. And so now they're in a really good spot. We'll see how things shake out going down that. But those first pod, I'm going to say the first 3 are Alcorn State, Alabama A&M, Mississippi Valley State, and Prairie View A&M. Talk a little bit about, Charles, your thoughts. Are these teams, Valley, maybe Prairie View, are they able to find a way to get in that top 8, or do you think it's pretty much too late at this point?
Prairie View has an opportunity to hold ground, or I guess hold themselves in place with a series against Mississippi Valley State, but finishing with Alabama State coming into Prairie View, that's a tough task. So sitting in that 8 spot is going to be kind of precarious for Prairie View. And you take a look at it, I think Southern, this weekend they have Alabama A&M. They get an opportunity to keep things steady right there. Yep. And it really is coming down to that last weekend, Southern at Jackson State, Prairie View hosting Alabama State in terms of who can fight it out for that 8 seed. And I mean, lo and behold, look at Jackson State after they lost 6 in a row. Now they put together 10 in a row. So there's no team hotter in the SWAC right now than Jackson State. Is beyond, and right behind them would be Southern, winning 6 in a row.
Drew, your thoughts?
To give you the short answer, no. But since it's a podcast, I have to expand on that answer that you gave you, because that does not make for a good podcast with the one-word answers. But Charles, not only does Southern have Alabama A&M on their schedule to close out the season, but so does Arkansas Pine Bluff have Alabama A&M on their schedule. So for Prairie View, the 2 teams that they need to chase and need for one of them to fall off the wagon, both of them have sweepable series on their ledger. If not sweepable series, at least winnable series. So, Doc, I'm sorry, man. It's over for your alma mater, man. First time since expansion, they won't be there. So,
well, I will say this. I think it's going to be fascinating. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Prairie View. I think that may be the more interesting one to see where those teams fall out. Pine Bluff has an interesting series this week in terms of what they have to get done.
Jackson State.
As they play Jackson State. And so I think there's a little room in terms of what that looks like in terms of those two. And oddly enough, remember the 3-game series between Prairie View and Arkansas Pine Bluff were rained out. So you don't even have a head-to-head measure if those teams are tied in terms of each other. At least you have to go to some other tiebreakers. So
they won't get a chance to make that up?
It came down to that. Well, yeah, they might make them try to make it up. I don't know what that looks like.
I think we need to at least let them play a doubleheader on a midweek to try to do something with it. To especially if you're Prairie View, you want that opportunity to play at least a doubleheader to try to make up some of the ground head to head against a team that realistically you could catch.
Yeah, that's why I said going down, it'll be fascinating for them to tie. I think you either play one game or you play 3. If you do a double header, I don't know if it does you any good, particularly if they're tied or one game, you just put yourself back in the same framework. So either it's 1 game or 3 games that they got to make up. But it'll be interesting to see how much they'll fight to try to get that in, because this certainly could be about one of them getting in or not. So it's going to be interesting in terms of those next 4. Hold on, let me get these next 4 so we can talk about those, which will include some of the matchups that you're going to probably add to that, Drew. Southern is at 13-11. They won the last 6. You all kind of alluded to those matchups. Arkansas Pine Bluff that I was just mentioning, they're 10-9. They lost 2 to Grambling. They won the first game, and you were like, ooh, Pine Bluff, we might have to look at them a little different. And credit to Grambling. Getting it going, they won the last 2 to win the series. And you have Texas Southern sitting at 14-12. They've lost last 3. They have a tough road going down the stretch, but they might have built enough cushion in there to be okay in terms of what that looks like. But that's fascinating when you look there. Then you have Jackson State tied with them at 14-10, who've gotten hot. They won the last 10. So it'll be fascinating. Can they keep that going? So we look at those 4 teams. I'm going to go back to you, Drew. I know you had some thoughts you want to get in there, and you can include your thoughts on these 4 if it wasn't going to be included already.
I was going to say, if you're Arkansas Pine Bluff, you do not want to have to play Prairie View because you're ahead right now. Talk about your institution where you work at, Texas Southern, Dr. Cavil. I mean, talking about getting the schedule makers not doing you any favors down the stretch when you close the season against the 2 Florida teams. And realistically, Dr. Cavil, Texas Southern could wind up playing Bethune 4 games in a row because they've got the 3 to close out the season. And should they wind up in 8th place, they will open up the tournament in Birmingham with Bethune. But, it don't get any better because, if it's not Bethune, it's going to be FAMU the way that schedule looks. I'm just being real, Dr. Cavil.
Correct.
Right now, Texas Southern, if you had to ask me out of those 4 that you just mentioned, Jackson, Texas Southern, Arkansas Pine Bluff, and Southern, Texas Southern is, if you ask me who's going to finish 8, Texas Southern is going to finish 8 based on those 4 right there, with Jackson State probably having the next hardest schedule, because anytime you close the season with your rival, throw records out the window if you're Jackson State and Southern.
Yeah, I might have to make it into Jackson that weekend, Travis. I had to catch that game. That's it, Reed.
Yeah. Go ahead, Charles. Give you an update along with those thoughts there. Give me some more.
I think Drew hit it on the head. When you take a look at Texas Southern coming down the stretch, they host FAMU this weekend and then close things out going to Bethune-Cookman. They really needed a couple games this past weekend against Southern. I take my hats off to the Jaguars. Everybody, like you mentioned, they were throwing dirt on them coming into this series this weekend, and to their credit, they got the big win on Friday, and then I think the big one was the shocker on Saturday. Big three-run home run where they took the lead in the top of the ninth, and they literally stole victory from the jaws of defeat on Saturday. So that was a bit of a deflator going into that Sunday game. I think you could see that. And, the question is, around this time of the year when, you probably have some arms go down, somebody has to step up in the bullpen. And I think you can kind of talk about that throughout the conference in terms of who's going to have the arms going into the tournament.
Yeah, in case of that is credit to Bethune-Cookman and FAMU. 2 weeks ago, we've heard about Rattlers losing their ace, one of their starters for the weekend series. And then this past weekend, we hear about Bethune-Cookman. And both of them were going up against tough matchups. FAMU lost a tough series to their rival Bethune-Cookman, but they were able to get back to their winning ways after that. And then in the thick of things, Bethune-Cookman going into the series at Alabama State. Talk about that series, man. Whew. I watched every game of that. They were close. They went down the wire. I guess I'm just a glutton for SWAC baseball, but it was entertainment. I've never seen a sweep like that where the games were close. I mean, one-run game in the first two matchups. The last one was a one-run game until the eighth. And in both of those matchups, actually, Alabama State had the lead late. Bethune-Cookman had to come up with their last bat to get the victory after kind of going back and forth. And even including that third game, it was a one-run game going back and forth. And then late in that matchup, Bethune-Cookman got some protection run. They got a big home run that put them up 4 runs. After just having a 1 point lead in that ninth inning, and lo and behold, you go up into the ninth and Alabama State still fights back. And they do get the one run that would have tied it if Bethune-Cookman didn't get those extra runs. So they get the sweep, but it was a well-played, very big series. But I talk about Bethune-Cookman to their credit, the fact that they had lost their starting pitcher. So you're right. This time of the year, as you get tough arms, who can kind of fight through that, who can get a little depth, who batter, not just those that have shown all season that they are top of the lineup, hitting top five. We go over those on Thursdays, those top players in the SWAC, top five, what we look at, but you can look at the top 10. But you also look at those guys that just seem to be crucial hitters, 2-out hitters, those that are able to put down runs. Those clutch guys that just find a way, even though they may be batting a little under the average or whatever, but when it comes to getting big time hits, they just find a way to get it done and make those plays. Who can reduce those errors? This is time of the year where those aches and bruises are tested in terms of what you can get done. So great comments by both of you. It'll be fascinating to kind of see how this race goes down the stretch. When you look at Alabama State, Grambling State, FAMU, and Bethune-Cookman, top of the order, Alabama State sits at 15-9. They lost 5 straight, including being swept by Bethune-Cookman, but they're still playing solid baseball. Grambling State 16-8. They're the team out of the West. It finds them top of it and said, hey, we believe that our championship last year was not because we just got hot in the tournament, as they did, but also that they played some good basketball. And then the normal folks at the top of the conference in terms of what they were doing in the East of FAMU with 5 straight, Bethune-Cookman with 4 straight. Great baseball being played there. It'll be fascinating to see, again, how it goes down the stretch. And we'll see about it. With that being said, let's take our last break, come back on the other side, and let's get into talking about some of those matchups that y'all alluded to a little bit, and then we'll call it the show. With that being said, let's take our last break, come back on the other side, see what that looks like. I do want to give this one update. I heard this. You heard this from AD Golf at Prairie View A&M. This is coming out in terms of Sam Herder. The FCS oversight has officially voted in favor of allowing FCS teams to play 12 regular season games every season starting in 2026, making what has been week 0 the new week 1. D1 Council will need to make the final approval. But AD Golf said this during our HBCU Sports ecosystem series and talked about the fact that this would be coming. So when him feeling comfortable putting out there, it shouldn't be any surprise that the Oversight Council will vote for it as well. Be interesting to see what this looks like moving forward. Brian had a great comment asking a question. That was David. Week 0 is now the week 1. MEAC SWAC challenge should be more than one game from the point forward. Be interested to see what that looks like. Certainly won't be the only game out there where that limelight, which was one of the points I was going to make. But you do have the question from Mo that interesting. So we'll be seeing just a lot of FCS games week 0 starting in next year in 2026. I would say, yes, that's going to be the case for a lot of teams. If people remember, historically, this went on the table about probably now a decade ago. And it was voting down. They couldn't get enough votes from FCS members. SWAC was one of the schools with Southland and a couple of others that did push forward, but were not able to get it done. Drew?
Is this an opportunity for more check games now? Maybe not that particular week, but you may see FBSs start scheduling FCSs for quote unquote warm-up games, and it's an opportunity for FCSs to pick up
an extra check.
An extra check, just like they have these past 2 years, because you've had the opportunity to pick up the extra check and still keep your traditional non-conference rival games going, especially with the 8-game conference schedule. Or do you see possibly conferences going to a 9-game conference schedule now, since you have the extra week? So it's going to be kind of interesting. And when I'm asking this question, I'm just not asking this on the HBCU level. I'm asking this on FCS level in general.
Man, good points.
And the question I would ask about that extra check game, and we saw this last year, damn near everybody in the SWAC was playing with their second, third, and in some cases fourth-string quarterback. So if you have some issues where that lead guy goes down in the early part of the season, it could just wipe you out for the year. So I don't know. Take it with a
Charles, you almost have to approach it like a midweek baseball game, where you go in and you know that your pitcher is only going to pitch 2 innings, and everybody has a thing. You almost have to do that with these games with your quarterback. QB1, you're going to play the first quarter. That's it. I don't care. You're going to play the first quarter because we got something bigger down the road. And because everybody has 4 or 5 quarterbacks on the roster anyway, so that's how I would approach it. We know what we're here for. Unless they throw 2 pick sixes in the first quarter and we up 14-0, I'm sticking to my plan. QB1, 1 quarter. QB2, 1 quarter.
I would say this. I don't think that's going to be for what I call the Super 2 and the Power 2, previously known as the Power 4, Autonomous 5 at one time. I don't think you're going to see them playing a lot of this. I think you're going to you hear the news out there where you're even looking at the fact that it's likely that SEC is going to go to 9 games. They're probably going to play one of the games suited up made for television against the Big Ten. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of them playing that. And I wouldn't imagine that the ACC, the Big 12, are going to try to find out if they can get some of that money too. See if they could create some format like that. So maybe the G5s, I don't think you're going to see a lot of them playing those games. I think it's too much money on the line. So I don't think they're going to have much interest of playing 2 FCS programs. You still got the issue in terms of your counting games. So I could see potentially some FCS programs thinking about that, but I don't see that very likely. I think a bigger question, to your point, is the 9 games. Some of these conferences have gotten pretty large with the, obviously the SWAC with their 12. You have that up there with the CAA, Big Sky, right? Those conferences have large, so I can see them considering moving to 9 conference games. It's probably why you had more of them supported now in terms of what that looks like. So I can see that more of an issue a framework to get it done. But I think the other question where it becomes a challenge is for the MEAC with only 6 teams. Expanding the number of games they can play will be a challenge for them in terms of scheduling. Unless they decide to play maybe more SWAC games in terms of what that looks like. So I'm going to be interested in terms of also how it deals with the MEAC in terms of the number of games they play. They already have a strong non-conference schedule, but
I also see everybody picking up a Division II in the MEAC also with that extra game.
Yeah, I mean,
being out the SIAC or the CIAA.
Yeah, I'm not sure they don't have much option in terms if they decide to pick up a game. I can see a lot of teams not necessarily even playing it because it just doesn't fit. So some schools will take advantage of it. So it'll be fascinating. Obviously, you got the 10-game schedule, so I think SWAC will finish its rotation before it even looks at expanding whether they're going to play non-conference games. But you got the TV contract coming up. Do you use that now as more benefits in terms of negotiating that contract? So that's going to be some interesting ways that you think about this too. But wanted to bring that up. I thought that was fascinating. Let's take our last break so we can do our last segment and go ahead and give it a close. Great information there and great discussion.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop and A.D. Drew. Let's get in a little bit of schedule. I'll roll it out for this week. You can tell me a couple of your top games, 2, maybe 3, that you're interested in, and then I'll provide a little update. I want to give some love to the O&G Strike Zone for tomorrow before we close out the show. With that being said, matchup starting with FAMU is in Houston, Texas Southern University. It's good to see the Rattlers out there at McGregor Park. They have a great fan base here in Houston. We've seen them for the football games, basketball games on the weekend, do a great job. Wonder if any of the Dallas folks will sneak in to Houston for that game, but always great energy traditionally when you see Grambling, Southern, or Prairie View come out there, and now we can add on FAMU. So I'm interested to see what type of fans they get out to McGregor Park this weekend. Obviously, big matchup for that. Then you got Jackson State going to Pine Bluff. Arkansas Pine Bluff. The Golden Lions will be interesting to see this matchup. A lot of things on the line. You have Prairie View traveling to Mississippi. It'll be to be exact against the Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils. Both teams need some victories. Bethune-Cookman at Grambling. Ooh, boy, some good baseball here in this particular matchup. If any of y'all picked that one up, that's in Grambling, Louisiana. Then you have Alcorn State Braves traveling to Montgomery, Alabama State. Alabama State obviously ought to be able to right their ship after a tough weekend against the Braves. But we'll see if the Braves have anything left. Can they push maybe find a way to get one game against the Hornets in Montgomery. I don't know. Then you have Southern Alabama A&M. You would think Southern continues to get well. Or can the Bulldogs find a way to bite? With that being said, I'm going to go with you, Charles. What's your key matchup? What's on your mind for this weekend?
I think the one, obviously, that jumps out is Bethune-Cookman traveling to Grambling. You talk about a great pitching staff going up against those Grambling bats. And let me not take away anything from Bethune-Cookman's bats. I mean, Andre Martinez leads the SWAC in home runs. So they can put the bat on the ball, too. But that should be a great matchup. And then, obviously, you got Jackson State going to UAPB this weekend. UAPB has kind of turned that baseball program around. And you talk about Jackson State, very good pitching. When you talk about Eric Elliott, Eric Gonzalez, in terms of going up against UAPB lineup, they don't have a lot of guys in the top 10 as far as leaders in the SWAC, but saw it up here, saw it up close when they came and played Texas Southern. Guys like Eli Grease Smith, Brent Baugh. Those guys had tremendous series against Texas Southern. And I tell you what, once they got on base, you know, they caused some issues. They really have some good speed up and down the lineup. So that's going to be a great matchup with Jackson State going up there this weekend.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Drew?
I want to skip ahead for a second. Doesn't look like they're going to have time to make up that series because previewing Pine Bluff, because next week they play Thursday, Friday, Saturday to kind of get ahead so that they have Sunday off to get ready for the tournament. So it does not look like there's room on the schedule to make up this series. Do you make them play on a Tuesday next week? I'm not 100% sure on that one. I'm not unless you get a washout this weekend. I don't see that series being made up. Now, getting back to this week, I have seen this story somewhere before. Oh, it was basketball season. Well, coming down the stretch, this time it's teams 3 through 8 who can literally flip on a dime this weekend, depending on the outcome of these series, or everything could get kind of sold up this weekend. So it's really going to be interesting this weekend. Obviously, like Charles said, the number one matchup is Bethune-Grambling State. That's got to be the number one matchup in the conference this weekend. As a Rattler, we need Grambling to sweep Bethune because we're 2 games back. But since Bethune has a tiebreaker, we're essentially 3 games back with 6 to go. So we need a sweep right here, and we need to sweep Texas Southern. Also, the one that other one I want to keep an eye on is Jackson State, Arkansas, Pine Bluff. This one's going to be interesting. Jackson State realistically could vault themselves into a position where they can challenge for number 2 on the final weekend of the series. They can't catch them this week, but they can get themselves in position and get on either FAMU or Bethune-Cookman's tail, especially FAMU's tail if FAMU should falter this weekend to Texas Southern, or Jackson State could be down there fighting to not face FAMU and or Bethune in round 1. So that's going to be it. That's the other series that I'm definitely interested in.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Let me give this one before we close. Give an update before we get out of here. My minority baseball prospects HBCU Final Four tournament. Update news there. This tournament will consist of 4 teams. That's Morehouse, Tuskegee, and Miles out of the SIAC, and Dillard out of the HBCUAC. It's fascinating about those matchups. That tournament will be held in the Riverwalk Stadium in Montgomery, Alabama. That's May 8th through the 10th. Coming up this weekend. That's Thursday, May 8th. You have 2 games scheduled, a 10 o'clock game, which features Morehouse and Dillard, a 1 p.m. game that features Tuskegee and Miles. That rivalry is back in effect for postseason play. And then on Friday, you have, that's Friday, May 9th, you have a 10 o'clock game, which features Morehouse and Miles, and then a 1 o'clock game against Tuskegee and Dillard. On Saturday, you'll have your winners playing a championship game, and the losers will play in a consolation game, which is first at 2 o'clock. That's Saturday, May 10th. And then you have a championship game at 6 o'clock on Saturday. So it should be fascinating to see what that looks like. Drew, are any of these games broadcast? Would you happen to know if that's taking place?
Yes, they will be broadcast on the Minority Baseball Prospects YouTube page. The Morehouse games will be carried on, also simulcast on the Maroon Tiger Sports Network also. So, and you can read a little bit more about it. If you want the pre-tournament preview, you can go to Black College Nines and read my article that I put out there today to kind of break down these 4 teams and some of the key players to watch for on these particular teams. But I'm looking forward to great baseball, as I will be there live and in living color for the duration of the tournament.
Good stuff. Good stuff. The Prairie View and Bethune-Cookman matchup, that's number 1 seed out of the West versus the number 4 seed out of the East, has started. It's top of first, 2 outs. You have a runner on third for Bethune-Cookman after first 2 batters got out. You had a double, and then you have a pass ball where the runner has gotten over to third. So interesting matchup there. I say that to get into SWAC announced 2025 softball postseason awards. The awards go to Player of the Year was Cameron Broussard out of Grambling State. Hitter of the Year was Jace Jackson out of Jackson State. Pitcher of the Year was Kaylin Macy of Prairie View A&M. Newcomer of the Year was Janaya Thomas, Prairie View. Freshman of the Year was Kyle Wilson for Texas Southern. Coach of the Year was Vernon Bland of Prairie View. First team had 4 individuals from Prairie View, 2 from Alabama State, 2 from Texas Southern. At Grambling State, Bethune-Cookman in terms of the matchup. Second team, notice no FAMU folks on the first team.
You had to say that. You had to say that out loud, didn't you?
Yeah. Make sure y'all check out the ONG Strike Zone. I think Brian will give you his thoughts on that. Kelvin,
I just want to hear that rant.
Yeah, they're going to give you some thoughts. I kind of teased this early in the show to their credit. And shout out to Bethune-Cookman as they get on the board with a single that scored the run on third. They just ended the top of the inning, and Bethune-Cookman jumps out and gets a 1-0 lead to take a lead as they get into the bottom of the first inning. So should be interesting there. Second team, you had some FAMU rattlers that were on the second team. That was a second baseman and a pitcher. In terms of your first team was a Prairie View second baseman and a Prairie View pitcher. So I don't know if you want to switch them off of the first team into the second team. Kaylin Macy was pitcher of the year. So a lot of debate. He's stronger than the West. A lot of folks thought batting averages, when you get into that, we posted a lot of stuff in there. So it's interesting when you talk about what that looks like. But make sure you check out the ONG Strike Zone with Brian and Kelvin, I should say, in terms of their thoughts of what this looks like. I wanted to tease them a little bit, but I wanted to give them some love. Go out there and check out the show, because they're going to tell you, not only do they think that Vernon Bland should not have been Coach of the Year, they think they're Rattlers coach first year, say she started late. I don't know if you measure all that for Coach of the Year. They go into the non-conference schedule and to be there, even though this is conference awards. So, but anyway, I think they'll have a good show. So I teed them up. I think you all should go check it out in terms of what that looks like. Prairie View did have a couple of folks on the second team as well, along with Alabama A&M, Bethune-Cookman, had a couple of players out there, Grambling, and Alabama State in terms of what that looks like. So it all shake out in the tournament. So I thought I would give those gentlemen some love in terms of understanding what's going on. Check us out on Thursday as we get a little more mixed, talking about some of these matchups. Obviously, we'll give you some updates in terms of the softball tournament, what's going on there. We'll get into some highlights in terms of those key teams, and we'll give you some other HBCU news. We might go back in to give you some talk in terms of this FCS. I think that will be a lot of talk going on of what that looks like. So officially, thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. See, Charles, Jackson State doesn't get all the challenges from FAMU. They spread it away. FAMU believes in whoever's in the way. They just let you know.
They get some damn rabble rousers.
Jackson State, Brownwood, it don't matter. Whoever. They can get some. They say snakes will fight anybody. Get in the way.
They gotta come in and turn over tables and chairs.
Talking loud.
Poor Drew. He's the kind person that he gets all the backlash here. He says, hey, look, man, I didn't say all that. I'm just an SID. I give the information. Let y'all fight it out amongst yourselves.
But I will say this.
Yes.
I wish some of my compadres would actually do the research and just not look at numbers when you vote, because stats can lie. Yeah, believe it or not, despite what they taught you at school, Charles, numbers can lie.
Really?
They just tell a different story. I don't say, men lie, women lie, stats, numbers don't lie. It's just how you know how to interpret them. That's
I was about to say, how are we about to interpret these stats here in FAMU's direction?
First place.
HBCU Sports premise from inside the HBCU Lab, College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Thank you for all the lab listeners. Great dialogue out there. Way to get it done. With that being said, again, we want to thank you for listening to Octaville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and AD Drew every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. We'll be back here on Thursday to give you some more updates and give you the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. It's DrKenyatta That's on Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Facebook and YouTube. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Drew?
Lecture.
Dismiss. Brian? Elvin? Give him hell tomorrow on G Strike.
It's gonna be a good one. ONG baby tomorrow, Wednesday night, ain't here on the Black College Sports Network.
The Fighting Rattlers.
I'm out.